Hello everyone, welcome to this Mirror Facebook Live on the cost of living, focusing on energy bill rises coming in from tomorrow. I'm Sam Barker, I'm a money reporter on the Mirror, and I'm joined by Graham Hiscott, who is the business editor here.
Hello.
And we're going to be explaining what all of this means for you, as well as two pieces of action you can take today to help offset the cost of this. But today means today, tomorrow is too late, it's got to be done by midnight. So we've got one piece of advice which is sort of specific to all households in the UK, and we've got another one which is for pensioners only, people above the state pension age. We're also going to be answering as many of your questions as we can. If you've got anything you'd like to ask on energy bills, please do post it in the chat below, and we'll do our level best to answer it during this session. So the first thing we're going to tackle is the rise in the energy price cap and what that means for you. Unfortunately, we've got an energy expert on the call, and his name is Graham Hiscott. So Graham, would you mind, just sort of taking us through what is happening tomorrow with the price cap, and what does that mean for our energy bills, please?
Yeah, exactly, Sam. Well, just to go back, on what was announced by Ofgem, who are the energy regulator. So they set a price cap on two things, actually. It's customers who are on standard variable tariffs and those who are on prepayment meters. If you're on a prepayment meter, you'll know you are. If you're on a standard variable tariff, you probably don't necessarily know that you are, because it's they often have slightly different names. Quite dull names normally as well. But essentially, 22 million of the 28 million customers, households in this country, are affected by this price cap that goes up tomorrow, and the majority of those are going to be people on standard variable tariffs. Now, obviously, the big news is how much it's going up by. 54%, an average of £693 a year. We write about this number, don't we, a lot, Sam? But it's only really, I think, from tomorrow where we're really going to see the impact of what that means. Now, for two things, really. Firstly, those are averages. So there'll be people who will see their bills go up by less than that, clearly, and some who will go up by a lot more than that. Secondly, that's a year, so that won't all hit in just next month's bill. So don't worry, it's not going to come at once. And there is an element of the fact that your usage will be going down a little bit when it gets warmer. So, but with all those caveats aside, yeah, it's going to be a really big increase in that price cap, and as a consequence, the bills that people are going to pay. And just one thing I wanted to add, Sam, if we can, is if you've got when you hear us talking about these averages, if you want to email us, if you want to get in contact to say, hey, my bill's going up way more than that, and it probably is, then please email us, contact us. My email is at the bottom of the screen there, and we'll certainly try our best to answer your questions if we can't answer them during this session.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. That's a really good point. We are really keen to sort of hear from people on the ground across the country about how this affects them. Graham's inbox is kind of open for anybody to kind of message in about this. Mine is a very similar format. It's just sam.barker@mirror.co.uk. And yeah, we're both here to kind of hear how this is affecting you. And on that subject, I think let's move on to talk about what you can do to take some of the sting out of these energy bill price rises. So unfortunately, they are coming. There isn't an awful lot that consumers can do to hugely bring down these price rises, bar using less energy if possible. When we've covered that subject in previous Facebook Lives, and it's all up there on the Mirror website. If you Google on the Mirror website, you will find these these stories. Hopefully, there's some help. We had hoped that the Chancellor Rishi Sunak would announce some more help for households struggling with energy bills last week. And he did announce some measures. Unfortunately, they fell a bit short compared to what's needed. But there is one thing which you can do today which will help offset the cost of rising bills, and that is to take a meter reading, take a gas reading, particularly take an electricity reading, and submit it to your energy company. And the reason is that by doing that, you will ensure that all the energy that you've used up to that point is charged at the current rate, which, even though it's an awful lot more than you might have been paying last year, the amount that you're paying today is a hell of a lot less than the new rates which are going to kick in from tomorrow. So yeah, take a meter reading, and if you can, submit it to your energy company. Now, there is a problem today is that the number of people who've been doing this has caused a lot of the energy company websites to crash. So, it might be, people have been frustrated. So it was started about 8 o'clock this morning. It's still going on. So what you can do, if you can't manage to log on, that doesn't, it's not the end of, it's not game over, basically. It's what you need to do. This is what British Gas told me earlier. If the customer still takes their meter reading for today, they can submit it later with today's date on it. So if you manage not to, British Gas is one of the companies that's affected by this. So yeah, if you can't manage to log on and give this to your energy supplier, that's what you've got to do. Ideally, do try and contact them to make sure that still applies. But everything that I'm hearing today from the energy firms kind of backs that up. And yeah, so but be patient, and remember, you have got all day. You have got until midnight. So yeah, get a pen and paper out, go and jot down the meter readings, and submit it if you can. So I'm just going to take a very quick scan through through some of the comments here to see if we've got if anyone's kind of posted any questions. Again, we're here to answer your questions as well. Please do post it in the chat. We've got a lot.
Sam, I was going to mention, following from what you just said, I mean, the point is, a lot of people's meter readings, a lot of bills, I should say, are based on estimated meter readings. So it's always a good habit to get into to try and do. Actually, I do it every month, just to get into the habit of doing it. Yeah, not every month, most months. But anyway, it's quite a good habit to get into, because sometimes people see their direct debits go up, shoot up, and they're saying, well, why has it gone up? Even before this price rise has kicked in, and it could be that your suppliers recalculated your bill, even at the old sort of tariffs, and maybe estimated your bill. And those estimate. We're using, a lot of people are using the old-fashioned meters, which are often date back decades, and certainly technology go back. If you haven't got a smart meter anyway, there's huge estimations, and they're invariably wrong, because that's one of the big complaints that we hear about. So yeah, it's a good habit to get into anyway. Check your meter reading. Make sure the bill you get is based on an actual rather than estimated reading.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And associated, we've got a sort of a comment here from Julie Potter. She says, "It's disgusting. People are struggling to start. Everything is rising." Yeah, that's completely correct. What about the vulnerable, the elderly, and the disabled people who shouldn't have to choose between eating and keeping warm? You're completely right. And if you don't necessarily want to hear it from us, there's certainly a lot of the charities said that as well. Scope, the disability charity, Citizens Advice, they were all saying, before the mini budget, the spring statement last week, this is a serious problem and people need help, especially the disabled and the elderly, whose energy costs tend to be higher, and to a certain extent fixed. It's very difficult to tell someone who needs to have the heating on for 22 hours a day to put their heating on less, for example. And I've
just seen that message there from Tina. Sam, I've borrowed an outside cooking device and intending to burn my rubbish to generate heat to cook food for me and my disabled daughter. I mean, that's pretty extreme. And cooking, be very careful with what you're cooking inside, because there's a risk about carbon monoxide. It's potentially about what you're doing there. So be very, very careful. And sorry, Sam, I would also say that there is help out there. There are. There's the warm home discount, but that's largely the funds of that have been used up for this financial year. But the new financial year starts next month, so there's a new pot of money there. That's a whole different discussion, perhaps for another day. But there's also, suppliers often have their own schemes. They don't always promote them terribly well, but they sometimes have their own schemes where they offer particular help for vulnerable customers. And certainly, there's a couple that we've heard from there could well fit within that category. British Gas, for instance, announced yesterday that it is increasing a fund specifically for its customers, and it does have a separate fund for all customers of other companies. But anyway, it's increased that by 2 million to 6 million. So there's another 2 million quid there. That if you're a customer of British Gas, if you've got there's certain criteria, it's to do with having the amount of debt you're in, but you can get grants of up to £750. So you could potentially, cancel out all of this increase if you're eligible. The money's there, it's sitting there. Get in contact with them. It's a fund that is, the money is ready to be used. Go find out more about it.
Exactly that. And actually, so there's another pot of money out there for pensioners, which I'm going to come on to after we just address this point here. So Pauline Evans Townley says, "I've had a text off British Gas. I texted with my reading. Is that okay?" Yes, that's okay. They are saying that anyone who's signed up with British Gas, and you tick a box saying, contact me by email, contact me by text. If you tick that box, they can contact you by text, and if you text it back, they've assured me that that is fine. So I mentioned there's more specific help out there. So beyond the £750 grant available through British Gas, there is an additional pot of money out there which is available for people above the state pension age. And this is called the winter fuel payment. So normally this payment is paid out automatically. It's worth between for an individual, it starts from £100, and that can go up to £300 per household. And what it's meant to do is kind of help older people with energy costs over the winter months. Obviously, older people often needing the heating on a bit more, energy bills tend to be a little bit higher. So you need to be over the state pension age, and most people who were born on or before the 26th of September in 1955 will qualify for this payment. So normally there are other criteria apply, but you're broadly you're sort of eligible. Normally you will get this money automatically. If you don't, and for whatever reason you think that your name has fallen off the list, then you have to make a claim, and the deadline for that is today. So it's definitely worth doing. If you think that you might be eligible, you can call 0800 731 0160. So 0800 731 0160, and you can put your claim in. And yeah, I think it's money going begging, and it's well worth being aware of. So we've got a comment here from Colette Warburton. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We'll hardly put my heating on. It's okay for Boris and rich people. If they were on normal wages like us all, what would they do? I can't afford to carry on. I'm really sorry to hear this, Colette. I will take my own life like a lot of people do. My heart goes out to you, and I'm sorry to hear that it's affecting you so badly.
Wow.
It's very hard to know what to say. I mean, I was sort of encourage you. Obviously, please don't do that. And your family, hopefully your friends, and there are charities out there, who will
there is help out there, isn't there, Sam? I mean, there's, as I say, that contact your supplier, contact Citizen Advice, contact National Energy Action. They've got good advice there. There is these suppliers get a bad rap, and rightfully do, but they are supposed to be. Well, it's part of their license conditions. Actually, it's part of the rules that polices them, is that they've got to be understanding with suppliers. In fact, if you fall into debt, don't turn off your heating. I mean, whatever. Don't self-ration in the same way. Don't self-disconnect to the termite. Contact your supplier. There are rules in place that means that if you do get into debt, you can pay it back at a manageable level. They won't come sitting in the bailiff straight away or anything like that. There are systems in place. So if you're at that stage that Paul is at, please do get in contact with for those that can help you. There is help out there.
Yeah, there is, and I think if you were to say to your energy provider, what you've just said there, that's immediately going to kick you into the sort of the next level of customer service, if you see what I mean. They don't always advertise this, but there is a lot of help that they can provide to you if you say that you're in debt and you're struggling. And it has been known that it is rare for them to. I mean, the first thing they'll probably try and do is put you on a sort of payment plan. But they have been known to reduce debt for customers who are struggling. So it is worth bearing that in mind. It's definitely worth the conversation. I'm sorry to hear that it's affecting you so badly. So Diane Baker says, I put extra money in my prepayment gas meter. Will I still get gas at what it's at the moment? That is a really good question, because I think Graham, please do chime in on this as well. But my understanding is that it depends basically. So there was a lot of advice which was sloshing around a week, 2 weeks ago from some financial experts. I mean, money saving experts, Martin Lewis springs to mind, and he said, if you've got a prepayment meter, if you go out and basically whatever you can afford to sort of stockpile now, go out and buy it, and then when you come to top up, that energy that you use is at the old sort of the current lower in inverted commas price, and it won't be. So even if you were to plug that in June or something, you're paying marked prices. However, he had to then do a bit of a U-turn on this, because the advice sort of changed a bit from the energy companies. So depending on so there's definitely some energy companies. So E.ON is definitely one where that does not apply. If you were to go out and spend 100 quid or whatever on buying more energy now for a prepayment meter, and you try and use it from tomorrow, they're going to charge you at a rate from tomorrow, if you see what I mean. So yeah, and we're actually talking about prepayment. I did actually want to come back to it because we've had a comment here from a gentleman called Alan Richards. He says Scottish Power are going to increase prepay electricity standing charge on my meter by 87% from midnight. It's amazing how many complaints we get about Scottish Power actually as a newspaper. Up by 87% from midnight, up from a daily charge of 27p to 52p. That's a £91 increase for Mr. Richards without boiling a kettle. And it's worth pointing out, and I did have this flagged up because I wanted to come back to it, is that prepayment customers are facing the steepest increases as a result of what's happening with energy prices. I haven't got the figures on my screen, but from memory, the average is going to be the thick end of £2,000 a year, I think. Is that right?
It's just about, isn't it? Yeah. The suppliers argue that the differential is supposed to be because it's called more costly to service prepayment customers, isn't it? The idea that you've got people having to go out and sort of service the meters in a way they don't have to with other meters, but it seems an anomaly, and that these are often the poorest households in our country, and yet they're paying the highest unit rates anyway. So certainly, so it's it is shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and we're doing what we can to help. There's a lot of comments kind of along the lines of I can't afford this. What on earth do I do? And it is really difficult, and I wish that there was more. I wish that we could give you a silver bullet to kind of crack this. I think all we can do is kind of help. Take the sting out of it in various ways. Mention the schemes that are out there, the help schemes, the charities that might be able to help. If you missed it on this call or you missed previous Facebook Lives, we've written about all of this on the Mirror website. We've kind of rewritten a lot of it today. So if you were to go on the Mirror website today, you will see a lot of that quite near the top, hopefully, especially if you were to go on the money section of the website or the business sections of the website, you will see an awful lot of stuff to do with to do with this. But yeah, if anyone's got any further questions and they're really burning and you can't see an answer, please do contact sam.barker@mirror.co.uk or graham.hiscott@mirror.co.uk after this call, and we'll do our level best.
And Sam, I was just going to highlight also a really good a message from Maura, if
Yes.
I've got that right. Hopefully I have. Just at the end of her message says, and that they can issue temporary credit, and that's indeed right. Yeah, again, if you're struggling, they can issue temporary credit if you can't afford that. They'll temporarily sort of forward you some credit as well. So there is, it really is important to contact them, and there are options like this.
Yeah, no, that's right, and it's a really good point. And actually, I was unaware of that as a money journalist. So yeah, it's a really good point. Another thing I was unaware of as a money journalist, Emily Robinson. I wanted to say thank you very much for letting us know about this. So there is a scam going around saying they're British Gas. I would be very careful with this and just check. So that is very much hot off the press. Unless it's the British Gas repeat of the British Gas scam that was happening last year, it sounds like it's a new one. I would be very wary. Scammers are very clever, and they will take advantage of a time when they know that people are in correspondence. Say during coronavirus lockdown, a lot of it was Royal Mail, because they knew we were getting a lot of parcels. We're going to have increased contact with delivery companies. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them moving into energy. So yeah, if anyone gets in contact with you claiming to be your energy supplier, do just be doubly careful, and it's far better to do that, especially with the price of everything so high. Far better to do that than be caught out and face the sort of difficulty of trying to get your
Sam, is it worth just kind of mentioning a couple of things on scams? Just in general, you know much more about it than I do, but essentially, I suppose some of the key rules there is if you get a text or a website that purports to be, let's say, from British Gas, don't click on the links. Make sure you don't click the link. Yeah. Make sure if it's got a number that you go back to you check on the website or in your bill to make sure that's the correct number. Even then, sometimes it's worthwhile, double using a different phone when you phone back, not your normal phone. What other advice would you give in that circumstance to make sure you don't fall victim?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that a lot of scammers that they kind of work. They're psychological masters, so they will work by trying to get you to do something in a limited time frame. And the
Yeah.
thing that they've got working to their advantage at the moment is that there is genuinely a limited time frame to do some of the stuff that we mentioned on
Yeah.
this call.
Yeah.
Submit your meter reading. So just be aware that whilst be aware of the facts, and don't try to don't feel like you're being rushed into do something that might trick you, make you lose out. Sadly, they are very convincing. They're very, very good at what they do. And they've had all of the pandemic to really get an awful lot better. A lot of criminals from different areas of criminality piled into fraud during the pandemic, and sadly, it looks like they're here to stay. So yeah, I mean, we've definitely written about this before. Again, it's all kind of up there on the Mirror website. It's all free. You can search for it. But yeah. So Victoria Louise, what happens if you can't pay your bills? I mean, sadly, my heart goes out to you, and there'll be an awful lot of people in that position. I mean, the first thing to do is to, as Graham mentions, contact your energy provider and just say, don't do the ostrich routine. Don't stick your head in the sand. It's very easy thing to do when things start piling up and other bills get a bit too much as well. First thing to do is contact your energy supplier and say, I'm going to have difficulty either right now or in the future making these payments. What do you suggest I do? Because they'll try and put you on a sort of energy payment plan. There is other help, and they will signpost you to charities and schemes and other pots of money that might be able to help you. There is also something, it's also worth speaking to your local council, because there's something called the Household Support Fund, which actually, this is one of the things that Chancellor Rishi Sunak did do last week, is he put another £500 million into the Household Support Fund. And that is basically a pot of cash doled out by councils, is given to them by the government to help hard up families in their area, basically. So it's a bit of a postcode lottery, because the way that councils kind of spend that money is up to them, if you see what I mean. So some of them will give it in the form of vouchers, which is not going to be very helpful in your case. But yeah, I would say contact your local council as well, and if you haven't already, and just say, look, I'm in this situation. I'd like to make an application to the Household Support Fund. Can you help me? I can't remember the exact figure, but definitely they're handing out certainly up to sort of £300 help in that kind of region to families that qualify. The only kicker is that you can only apply to it once. So if you applied to it last year, this is my understanding, even though it's been topped up, in fact it's been doubled to £1 billion, you can't apply twice. But yeah, best of luck to you. If that doesn't help, please do get in contact with us, and we'll kind of talk through your situation and see what we can do. Julie Amanda Potter says, does this council fund apply in Scotland? That is a really good, it could possibly just be England and Wales. I will find that out. I'll find that out. But yeah, I almost certainly it is actually just England and Wales. But it's a really good question. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, great. Well, look, I just wanted to say thank you so much, everybody, for kind of commenting. I think we've got time to go through a few more. I think we don't normally get this level of questions and comments, and it just goes to show kind of what a big issue this is. And yeah, we've got a bit more time, so we'll try and get through these. I've already had an increase. Sandra Lowell says, I've had an increase in my payments this month. They've already doubled. I assume, this is energy we're talking about here. Are they going to go up again after tomorrow? I mean, the short answer is probably yes. If it is energy that we're talking about here, your energy provider has basically got carte blanche if they want to increase it. The value of that increase, as Graham said, kind of right at the beginning of this call, the amount it's going to check, it will go up, will vary. If you are on a variable rate tariff, which about 90+% of households are now, then yeah, sadly you probably will see increases to that bill coming in. It won't all come in tomorrow. You see quite a lot of scary headlines saying, oh, the average bill is going to go up by £700 over the year. That's true, but obviously they're not going to hit you with that bill first thing tomorrow morning. That's going to be split over time. So yeah, I think, Graham, what was it the figure you worked out? It was about sort of 50.
Oh yeah. So we worked out about £58 an increase. But I mean, for that person there, I mean, if their bill's already doubled, I mean, and then they're looking at potentially another, let's say it was another £58. I mean, that's obviously a huge increase. Again, I would reiterate that, make sure that when they talked about doubling your, I presume that's probably doubling your direct debit, make sure that that they've got the correct readings for that, because they might have used an estimated reading just to do that. But again, if you can't, if that's going to cause you real hardship, contact them. That they have to listen to you. They are required to take that into account when they're setting their direct debits, your circumstances. So, but yeah, Sam, I think sadly it looks like, and it does, like also, like most suppliers have increased, are going to increase. They've already announced they're going to increase it in line with the cap. So up to the maximum they can.
That's it. And so we've got another question here. So Tina Jacobs, what about us carers below pension age and who are caring for people we can barely afford to eat, let alone heat and cook? I've worked all my life, owned my home. I've never been a drain on the public purse. What are we to do? I mean, Tina, like so many people that have commented on this call, my heart really, really, really goes out to you. Obviously, you're doing an amazing thing in kind of being a carer. Obviously, there is, I'm sure you're well aware of this, but there is a government benefit called carers allowance, which is well worth looking into. If you're below pension age, you may well be eligible for that. I think, I wish I could turn around and say, we or the government have got the answer. There's a huge pot of cash, and it's for people who are carers. Sadly, there isn't. I think often carers are kind of overlooked by the government, and I would look at it almost as a lot of carers are doing work that maybe the healthcare service, it's almost like it's been farmed out, if you see what I mean. But it's not acknowledged. Sorry, Graham. Yeah.
No, 100. No, I was just saying, Sam. 100% agree. There's a value that almost can't be put on it, but possibly can, in terms of those unpaid carers who are caring for loved ones and who are soaking up so much resort. They're doing so much that really should be paid for, but it's certainly taking so much burden off of the state. Totally overlooked most of the time. Totally.
I mean, if it was down to me, I would say that anyone who's a carer in that position, bear in mind it's very expensive to do that, and there's obviously your time as well. I would say, there's not a single taxpayer in the country that wouldn't agree with saying every carer should be paid as much as they need for as long as they need it. But sadly, that isn't always the government's point of view. So just kind of trying to get through a few more questions here. So we've got Martin Warren. I've been off sick for 2 years with cancer. I'm really sorry to hear that, Martin. I hope all the best to you. Our bills are about to go up by £200 a month, whereas our benefits are going up by less than 50. It's a joke. How are people supposed to survive? I mean, again, my heart goes out to you, and the Mirror, and basically you name a charity in the UK, they were all saying before the budget last week, this is the point where we need targeted help for vulnerable and low-income households to help with the cost of energy bills going up. And everybody was kind of united in this, and very sadly, what the government's kind of brought out isn't enough. And as you say, there is a small increase, but it's not going to be enough to kind of cover what's going up.
And often people, Sam, we did a story on this about how those who are needing, I hope this person isn't near the section extent, but if they're near the end of their life, for instance, or certainly if they're at home needing additional care, they're often using a lot more electricity. Clearly, they're in the house more, but they obviously need more heat just to keep warm, etc., because of their illness often. But as I say, they're often being hit with some of the. They're already paying some of the biggest bills anyway, just because of the equipment they have at home. Again, because they have the heating on so much. And it's shocking that there was no targeted help for those. I mean, it's absolutely, scandalous, really, that there wasn't more targeted help. This carte blanche £150 rebate on council tax, which we haven't mentioned, but also kicks in tomorrow. However, there's a lot of low-income households who, despite what the government says, won't benefit it because the bands of council tax that they're in. And then the £200, which they talk about, which is going to come off households' bills. Is it a rebate? Is it a loan? Well,
the government calls it a rebate, but I'd definitely call it a loan.
You're not going to see a penny of that £200 until October. And by then, and this is one for a whole other time perhaps, Sam, but then by that point we could be looking at the price cap going up again. The level of that is really to be decided. There's a lot of things that need to happen on before then.
So actually, so just we'll definitely come back to that in previous episodes. Just a quick sort of jump in there. So what we're talking about here is that the government have announced that as a kind of a help for energy bills, there'll be a £200. They're calling it a rebate, basically. So your energy bills will fall by £200 from, I believe, October. Is that right, Graham?
I think it's October. Yeah, that's right.
October. However, that's not free money. So the idea is that in years to come, when energy bills hopefully go back to something a little bit more normal, that you will be repaying that money to the energy provider in the form of higher bills. So the government kind of taking the view there's no such thing as a free lunch there, unfortunately. So just one thing I just want to kind of pick out. We've got a comment here from Lenny or Leni Connery. So I do hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. This is to do with price comparison websites. So you're saying, is it still worth going to a price comparison site? We get asked this all the time, and it's a really
good point. Yeah.
Mine did not go up by just 54%. It has more than doubled. You're right. And as Graham says, this is kind of where kind of this is the devil in the detail of averages. Unfortunately, is that whilst the average might be going up by 54%, there is sadly some people that's going to be going up by 100. And I'm sorry to hear that's you. Is it worth going to a price comparison website? I would say not really. If you turn the clocks back a year and you turn to me as a money journalist and said, Sam, what should I do to bring down the cost of my energy bill? I'm unhappy with how much I'm paying. First thing I would have said is go on a price comparison website and shop around. Because at that point, the energy companies, there were so many of them in the market, they were very competitive. The price of new deals, fixed rate deals was relatively low. That was the way to save money. What's happened now is that model doesn't really work anymore. Because the price of fixed rate deals is way higher than the price cap that we've been talking on this call. So I would say it can't hurt to go on a price comparison website and just see what you are eligible for, and see whether there is a cheaper deal out there. For most households, the cheapest thing to do right now is to stay on a deal which is regulated by the energy price cap. So that is a variable rate deal. I say do shop around because that isn't going to be right for everybody. Occasionally in the last few months, I have shopped around and I have been surprised to find that I was able to get a new deal which was lower than the energy price cap. So sometimes, and often these deals are very time limited. An energy company, they don't really shout about it, but they will sometimes bring out lower rates. The thing to look out for when you do this is look for fees and charges, particularly because a lot of them will sting you if you, for example, want to switch within a fixed term period. I would say, the advice to probably 90% of people is stay where you are and don't shift, but it can't hurt to look around.
Yeah, I'd agree totally, Sam. The only thing I'd add would be, you're right. Sometimes the providers are offering some relatively decent fixed rate deals, but only to their own customers. And the other thing, of course, this isn't the subject of today's Facebook Live, but switching websites are still there for getting better deals on all the other things that are going up in price. Broadband,
car insurance, which is also going up.
So you might not be worth going necessarily there to look on it for energy, but it's definitely worth shopping around for better deals on all these other things that we tend to sleepwalk into paying more for every year. So you can chip away at this increase in energy with savings elsewhere. There are savings on all these other things that are going up from tomorrow.
That's right. So I think we've already got time just for a sort of couple more questions, and thanks again everybody for kind of chiming in. I hope you're finding it useful. It sounds like you are. So Jean Pearson, thank you very much, Jean. So tried phoning, no reply on both electric and gas, can't get through. The internet's crashed. I'm sorry to hear it. What's the point? This is because there's a lot of people who are all trying to log on today and submit their meter readings to try and lock in bills to a certain point. If you write down what your meter reading is today, the energy companies, a lot of them are saying you can just submit it from tomorrow, put the date as today, and they will accept that. My advice is, don't spend all day. If you're finding it a bit difficult, just take a note of the meter reading. If there's a way you can do it, if you're obviously online now, if you can, I don't know, see if you can do it in a way, take a screenshot in a way that kind of incorporates the date and time, but they're not actually asking for that. They're just saying, write it down and give it to us tomorrow, and that's good enough. So yeah, Margaret Dennison Knight, hello there. Both my daughter and I are now off work with long COVID. I'm sorry to hear that. Margaret, you know, I've got a touch of it myself, and you know, obviously not as badly as you and your daughter. My heart goes out to you. It feels like it was, you know, long COVID was like really dominating people's attention, probably, you know, when the pandemic started, and it seems to have fallen off, somehow fallen away from, you know, we don't talk about it so much now. We really should be. She's only getting £75 a week to pay for everything. You know, heating the house takes a lot of our money.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really sorry to hear it. I think what I would probably do is just kind of repeat a point that's come up at a few points during the call, but it's worth kind of repeating it. There's definitely help out there. You know, there is government money available. There is council money available. If you go to your energy provider, for example, if you struggle to pay the bills, you know, they may well be able to help you. And if you take a look on the Mirror website today, especially on the money section, if you go on the website, click on the money section, you will see an awful lot of stuff out there. Anything that you can do today is going to be on that website, and I hope you find it helpful. Okay, so I think then that we've probably we've already overrun, and you know, I wish that I could get around to answering all of these questions. My heart goes out to you all. Yeah, and yeah, I just want to say thank you everybody for tuning in. You know, I'm sorry that we're, you know, talking under these circumstances and not better circumstances. I hope you found it helpful. Yeah, thank you very much, Graham, for coming on the call. And again, you know, if you've got, you know, if you'd like to talk to us about your personal situation, you can contact us by email. So that's sam.barker@mirror.co.uk or graham.hiscott@mirror.co.uk. And remember, yeah, write down those meter readings, submit them if you can. If not, do it tomorrow. And yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Best of luck.
Thank you.